This is Jonathan Ferguson, the Keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. This week we're showing Jonathan some of the proper British guns from the Fallout London mod.
Little tape is literally just some blue electrical tape wrapped around the wrist there. Enough tape. I do like that. That also feels very British. You're going to get sticky hands for pointlessly wrapping tape around your lovely walnut stock.
We've got plenty of Fallout episodes for you to enjoy already on the channel, and as always, let us know what other games or guns you'd like to see Jonathan break down in the comments section below. Also, we want to introduce a few Q&As into the episodes, so if you have any questions for Jonathan or the Expert Reacts team, leave them in the comment section and they may be answered on a future episode. Right, over to Jonathan.
Here we are outside Fesco. Other fictional supermarket brands are available.
I think there is a fictional Sainsbury's down the road from where I recorded this.
I haven't seen this outside my local Tesco. Clearly a C96 broom handle, good reload. This is clearly much improved from the base equivalent of a broom handle from Fallout. So this is, well, pretty closely one of these. This is a Mauser commercial model. 7.63. Now this one says it's in 9mm, and I could have grabbed a red 9, I guess, but it's the same basic design. Also, the barrel is very slender. Either model, you see quite a thick barrel back here, tapering down to the muzzle. The one on this model is a cylinder, so it's like a plain cylinder, and this bit of the barrel extension is maybe not as beefy as it ought to be. The overall impression is good. All the sort of major details are there, but detail is a bit off. So that milled panel here, that is over milled. It's taken too much metal off. This is detail stuff, but the barrel is questionable, especially for 9mm. That barrel looks like it might be 9mm in diameter, so there isn't enough space in there to fit a cartridge. But overall, it's a huge upgrade on the stock Chinese pistol, which of course is what it still is, but they've given it a sort of realistic makeover, which I do appreciate.
I often forget there's the Chinese copy of the C96.
Yeah, well, on that point, so this is an actual Chinese broom handle. Those of you who know your brooms will recognize the selector switch for automatic fire. So it's a Schnellfeuer, but Chinese, and it has a sort of slightly rubbish take on the Mauser logo there. So the Mauser logo is actually a barrel. It's meant to be like a wooden barrel, and then with the Mauser name within it. This just says pistol. This is one of those illegal copies, but just to prove it's Chinese, we have our Chinese characters there denoting the model. And being a Schnellfeuer, it has a detachable box magazine, unlike the integral magazine that we see on this one. Our Chinese pistol is just a variant. We don't have a normal Chinese broom handle. But in reality, and this is, guess where the Chinese pistol comes from, there was a strong trend in China toward purchasing the C96 quite a bit later than most other users were still using it. So into the Second World War, in fact. It's a little harder than that to reload a broom handle, but the way it's modeled is good. Now this is interesting. So this is one of these, or close to, as in fully automatic variant, select fire, with the Brazilian Passam modification, with this sort of sheet metal forend with a kind of gangster grip and a pseudo carbine type stock. So without looking up the Passam again, I think this is a combination of two different variants. Exactly how a niche Brazilian modification of the Mauser C96 has made its way into alternate London, I don't know. The bolt holding open on the hammer is something you will see on some variants. Well, variants with a magazine. Let's see if this one does it. So there we go. You pull it back, a notch on the bolt catches it on the hammer. You put your fresh magazine on, you pull the hammer down, bolt goes forward. So that's been correctly referenced. Oh, not sure what this is. This looks homemade. Some sort of, double kitchen knives as bayonets. I hope he has a license for those. I think you might need a cutlery expert reacts to correctly assess those. Handles look a little slim, that's all I'll say. This is reminiscent of a lot of riot guns used around the world, but I don't think it's meant to be an adapted riot gun. It looks like something homemade to me. Now, without getting too far into the licensing stuff, obviously we have a divergent timeline here, and a lot of the UK firearms legislation would have come in. Well, it's the trouble is it's divergent in a different way, isn't it? So let's just say the licensing setup may well be different, but firearms are not necessarily going to be everywhere, even in this version of the UK. And of course, the ones that are may well have deteriorated, as we've discussed in other Fallout videos before. So I was fully expecting to see craft-produced firearms in this game. If you're going to have them in the US, you're absolutely going to have them in the UK. Now, we got a preview of this, or I got a preview of this in a Forgotten Weapons video. Ian doesn't do too much in the way of gaming these days, but he spotted that there was a new well rod for Fallout 4 a couple of years ago now, I think, and did a video on it. And I'm pretty certain this is the same mod. Fantastic to see a well rod in a game anytime. As Rebellion know, I have mildly criticized their Sniper Elite well rod for being very short relative to its size. This has no such problem, so it is pretty bang on proportions wise. And it is a Mark II-A 32 ACP well rod. And it's a good effort, as I think Ian said at the time. Sorry, that's a very British understatement there. It's very good. So only really tiny proportion differences here. So that almost looks like a circlip in the back of the cocking piece there. It isn't. That's a separate piece with a notch in it. So the inner piece of that circular feature there is actually recessed. It's not proud as in this model. And then the circular raised feature around that is not as thick as they've rendered it there. And that whole circular feature is a little too big. It's that level of nitpicky detail where I wouldn't even notice if I didn't have a real well rod in my hand to compare it to. Yeah, we can look at things like the how dished and what the angles of this ejection opening area here are. The rear sight, so ours is actually radioactive, so I have to destroy my gloves after handling this. That's been lacquered in place, which is why it might look a little shiny on camera, so that there's no threat, no little particles that might come off, go in my face, and give me bone cancer or something horrific like that. Radiation is not to be messed with, but it has that slender tube look to it. It is more than anything else a tube, and they've got the proportions of that right. The rather silly looking little unguarded trigger there that we can open the bolt there, the two locking lugs, push it forward to compress the striker, rotate to lock it in place ready for firing. You then have the grip safety there. See how and I'm pretty sure that's modeled correctly as well. So we depress that. If we don't depress that, the trigger doesn't do anything. Very important when you don't have a trigger guard. We do depress that with our hand, then that simple rod can push to the rear and release the striker. Incidentally, it's a Mark II-A because it has this, or these, I should say, reinforcing or simplified manufacturing, really, is what it's the result of. Plates that are screwed on either side to attach the body, the tube, to the magazine housing. They appended the A when they made that change. Now, the reload is always going to be tricky. This was never designed to be rapid fired at the enemy. You're supposed to get the first shot on target, and then you have your 5 or your 8 shots, and reloading is really, really difficult, especially the way depicted. The way you'd want to reload it is to grasp the gun like this, press the magazine catch, rip out the magazine, shove in a fresh one, bearing in mind you're not supposed to be doing that. If anything, the magazine comes out to make this packable, concealable. But anyway, if you had to do a sort of tactical reload, the problem you got there is you got nothing to hold on to. And we see the model kind of fudges it, and you haven't really got anywhere to put your trigger finger other than on the trigger and try to wrap your hand around this tiny bit of grip. So we have to literally squeeze the trigger the whole time, which isn't ideal. And then we have to reach up in there and try to get the magazine in. It's doable, but it's awkward and it kind of goes against the safety instincts to be holding down the trigger while you do it. So the reload is doable, but not really advisable. There's something very wrong about the gold plating on this thing. I got a brief glimpse down the muzzle there. Did not see a rubber wipe, which I would expect to see. The reason the well rod is any quieter than the modern suppressor is that it has rubber wipes sealing the suppressor especially for those first few shots before the hole in the rubber made by the bullet as it passes through gets larger, allowing more gas to escape more immediately, and therefore a higher pressure differential and a louder pop.
You were so distracted by that, you missed the name of the golden version.
Scaramanga. Yeah.
It does do more damage. It's almost a one-hit kill.
Obviously, it's not. Scaramanga did not have a well rod, but so intuitively, I grasp what they're going for. It does. It kind of has the vibe of the golden gun. Never heard of a gold-plated well rod. I imagine there's an SAS trooper somewhere that got one as a leaving gift or something. Service rifle. That's very, very non-specific. But so far, the one thing I'm kind of missing here is the good old-fashioned clunky British military nomenclature. So rifle, comma, 303, comma, etc. Number 1 mark. Well, in this case, number 4 mark 1. There's really no copyright reason to not use the very old military designation for this thing. So why not use it? And it adds to that quaint British vibe as well. Maybe a patch? I'm sure I've got enough to deal with without me whinging about such inconsequential things. People get very confused sometimes with SMLE and use SMLE for all British 303 rifles, or certainly for this one and the actual SMLE. But this is the rifle number 4. The SMLE short magazine Lee Enfield was renamed rifle number 1 Mark III in 1926. And the number 4 came into full service from 1941. It was around in the 36 onwards. But it looks pretty good. I will say the cocking piece at the back there, I don't know if I can show you this very easily, but we have the screw at the back there. So there's the back of the firing pin and the keeper screw effectively there. Those are present and correct, but they're a bit kind of shiny and domed looking, like they're maybe a bit. They don't look quite as crisp and flat like they do on the real thing. Major nitpick, but that's the piece that's in your face in first person view. The sights on the number 4, they could have just done the battle sight there. Nice big open aperture, which I think actually might be the right size for a change in games, because normally they make them extra big. But it's already quite big on the number 4, so that you can quickly acquire your target, quickly align your sights. That's the battle sight. But we also have a representation of the flip-up primary aperture rear sight with its micrometer adjustment. The target shooting fans in the British Army won out, and the number 4 rifle went back to full sight radius, distance, and a target pattern sight, essentially. That's the iconic difference. That tells you that's not an SMLE, bit of barrel sticking out the end of the nose cap, with a great big blocky front sight in its big sight protectors. Tells you you're looking at a rifle number 4, or a number 4 rifle, if you want to speak normal English.
Made me think of you that it goes from little tape, bit more tape, all the way to that's enough tape, actually. enough tape.
I do like that. That also feels very British. Yeah. So little tape is literally just some blue electrical tape wrapped around the wrist there. A bit more is 2, 3, and then 4 random pointless bits of tape. Very good. I appreciate the joke there. And the thing is, you know what that's doing to the actual handling of the rifle. You're going to get sticky hands. But for pointlessly wrapping tape around your lovely walnut stock, it's just going to go all gooey and, yeah, not to be recommended. Oh, hello. It's a Fallout version of the Royal Small Arms Factory at Enfield. That's very pleasing. There's something slightly poignant about the fact that the Enfield sign is riddled with bullet holes. Enfield electric Boogaloo. Like it. I like the fact that it's like Willy Wonka's version of Enfield. Very, very old history looking. Very Fallout looking. course. So we've got some sort of PCB on. Is it a PCB? Should it be a PCB? I don't know. Anyway, looks like circuit boards. More electrical tape, to make sense, I guess, if it's electrical in some way. So, rifle number 5. We do, in fact, have a rifle number 5 here with the signature rubber butt pad that has hardened quite a bit since it was put on there. But in theory, that was to help with the recoil of such a short rifle. And it was called a rifle. Formerly, not a carbine, although its nickname was Jungle Carbine. You can see they've actually done a good job there of the conical flash hider, the number 4 style front sight, the exposed barrel, cut back stock. Well, not cut back, but redacted. It is lacking, though, I think, the metal end cap, because this bit's going to get damaged and start splintering if you don't have something to protect it. So it does. I haven't just picked up any number 5. I picked up one with a Parker Hale scope mount on it, because I wanted to nod to what I'm looking at here, but that's a completely different scope mount. In fact, that's on there with Allen bolts, so I would guess that's a post-war modification and not actually relevant. This is effectively a combination of rifle number 5 with a rifle number 4 T sniper mount and scope, which was put together by Parker Hale, but not this mount. That's a dovetail type mount. Bit of a short weapon to be sniping with, especially with the known accuracy issues of the rifle number 5. And then we have this electrical modification. It's a nice way to get a classic bolt-action rifle with the energy weapon effect. Does it make sense? Probably not, but never mind.
Yeah, I wanted to include the Enfield factory, not only because that's where you find the variant, but it did it made me smile that they'd added it. I don't know if it's in the actual right place. Like, their version of London is a bit squashed. Yeah,
the real Enfield, without looking at the map, is so far into North London that it used to be Middlesex. So I think it would be, without vehicle travel being much of a thing in Fallout, I suspect it's quite a few miles further south than it ought to be. But presumably they put it roughly in the right direction, at least. We have a vintage coloured map in a frame on the wall here of the actual site of Enfield. In terms of divergent history, there's no reason why it wouldn't be the same basic site plan, whereas the version of the factory I'm seeing there doesn't really look like. It should be on a canal for the water power originally, obviously, and then for transporting parts in and guns out and that kind of thing. So if you were going to be slavish about your alt history, it probably ought to look a bit more like the real thing than it probably does. But you know what? I feel bad even saying that, because it's so cool to have a version of that iconic facility where a large part of this collection was made and an even larger part was kept for reference before it became part of the Royal Armouries. So it's just as cool as seeing the Tower of London in a video game, which is the other origin home of our collection and our institution. Like it. It's got its own sort of vibe to it. Fits the universe. It's clearly a scratch design, but I really like the ammo magazine analog power pack thing clicking in the side like that. It has a bit more of a firearmy vibe than some of the energy weapons from prior Fallouts.
I did wonder if there was maybe like a little Sten Sterling influence as to where the energy cell is mounted.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's a deliberate reference to the originally German and then British preference for magazines coming in from the side. I'd be amazed if that wasn't deliberate.
Ah, the Sutton helmet, a masterpiece of Anglo-Saxon craftsmanship. The helmet was found during a 1939 excavation of the Sutton ship burial.
Oh, nice, the Sutton helmet. That's very cool.
The British Museum in Fallout London is so good. The whole little quest that goes with it is amazing.
I love a virtual museum.
Congratulations! You have just placed your grubby little fingers on a helmet that once belonged to Anglo-Saxon King Raidwall. I am so happy to see you smear this delicately ornate piece of history with your dirty hands.
Absolutely love the commentary there. That's incredible. In reality, if you visit the Sutton Hoo helmet at the British Museum, be prepared to be, well, a bit disappointed if you think it looks like this, because this looks like the replica, the very good replica that was made back in the mid-20th century. The original was fragments. There was precious little left of it, but enough to fully reconstruct what it looked like. If you want to see a complete helmet of that rough period, go to the Yorkshire Museum, because the Coppergate helmet is a lot more impressive.
Oh no, don't start museum beef, please. Jonathan had so much to say about the guns of Fallout London, we've actually had to split this video into 2 parts. So if you want to see more of Jonathan's breakdowns to this fantastic mod's weaponry, as well as a virtual visit to the Tower of London, be sure to come back for part 2 next week. Until then, thanks for watching.
Please don't hold yourself back. Insert your grotesquely misshapen head and bend the ancient craftsmanship of this relic to your vicious will, you mongrel.